your word? What's your word?
Oh, and let me first say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Sunday edition of the Bees of Boxing. My good friend Steve Swift joining us, and this is a special edition for all of you people that enjoyed your fish and chips on Fridays. All of you people that called it a Good Friday. Today is the Easter Sunday. Tomorrow is Zombie Jesus Day. And after that, it's Tuesday and it's back to work. Steve, how you doing, brother? What, you don't believe in zombies?
I don't. I obviously do believe in zombies, but that would mean that George A. Romero is Jesus's dad, and I'm not quite sure that's the case. I mean, I've not read a book about it. There may be a book about George A. Romero being Jesus's dad, but I don't think so.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of things that could happen.
No. You wouldn't put anything out of the realm of things that could happen, considering the life you've led.
Well, I mean, it's George A. Romero.
Could happen.
Did I ever tell you the story that I was supposed to be in a George A. Romero flick?
No, but I feel sure you're going to.
Yeah, we'll get into that one day. But brief little synopsis was that I was kind of taking some time off from real employment, and I got a call from a friend of mine who is a casting person who, when they were filming the one of the Deads in Toronto in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it so happened that I got the call, and I was supposed to start a brand new career 3 days after that, and I picked the career. I know. Disappointment. I should have gone the route of being in a George A. Romero flick. And then, who knows? Maybe I could have been sitting on one of those silly tables at the Comic-Cons with our good friend Brady Wedham.
Yes, or you could have been the new Steven Seagal.
Listen,
that would have been superb.
Listen, I didn't want to be the old Steven Seagal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's the
Listen,
thing.
he also cooks.
That's evident. I mean, come on now. Wow. Speaking of cooking, we've got, even though it is Easter weekend, we've got fights happening this weekend, which is fantastic. After we're done doing this, we're probably both going to end up going and watching in our own separate ways the Ben Whitaker fight that is going to be very, very exciting. Very exciting indeed. That is going to go under the radar. Nobody's going to know about it. That's the weird thing, is like,
Yeah, I've just TikToked about this, folks. So do go and have a look at Steve.Smith088 on TikTok. Because what I'm saying is this is more exciting for me than the Ben and Eubank fight. Because there is a reason, a massive reason, why both of these fighters need this. Ben Whitaker needs this because he was the coming man. He is no longer the coming man. He is a comedy figure in some people's eyes after what happened in the last Cameron and Whitaker fight, which I'll leave for you to talk about. But Liam Cameron needs it because he is now signed up to Queensberry. He's signed up to Frank Warren's stable. So he needs to push on with his career. And I think he'll actually do that.
Wow. Because he's certainly not the betting favorite in this. He's not the A side in any kind of way, shape, or form. Obviously, everybody except for Frank Warren, of course, is putting all of their stock into Ben Whitaker winning this fight.
Yes, I agree. But last time, I mean, you could say, well, Ben Whitaker, who's silky skills. He's silky.
Sure.
I've been listening to Sly Stone a lot, so that might be part of the idiom of my chat. But he's not funky. He's silky. He might be funky. But when I first saw him fight, I thought, what a fantastic mover. And he really made opponents look foolish and fed into that himself. And he's a good talker. But when he came up against Liam Cameron, who is people might say a more meat and potatoes fighter. But what I would say is you get all of your dietary needs in there. He makes sure it's all in there.
Sure.
So he doesn't skip anything. and he put the pressure on Ben Whittaker, and Ben Whittaker wilted like a hothouse flower.
Cameron's also a guy who's been in there in championship fights already. He's been in there and he's experienced this stuff. So maybe what we saw from Ben Whittaker last time was a guy who was a little nervous, because this would have been the first guy who's got that kind of experience. And Ben was like, you know what? Maybe I don't like dance around and be foolish and try to clown this guy. But in doing so, takes away from what Ben Whittaker is. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this one, boy.
They both need it so much that I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah. Well, there's another one that you're going to have to wait for, because we got the announcement, Steve, and we're going to talk about this because our good friend, our pal, got him on speed dial, Mr. The Jakester himself, Jake the Joke Man Paul, who's so often given us so many things to talk about, usually because of his own silliness. But it looks like Jake Paul's got himself a fight again, right? And it's not Canelo. We already know, so don't get that. That's not happening. And believe it or not, it's not even a former MMA guy. He's actually fighting, and I'm going to throw these up there for y'all. There's my fingers going up in the air in air quotes. He's fighting an actual boxer again, because his last fight was against a boxer. Steve, how do you feel about this one? Tell us what you know.
Well, this will be Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now, the thing I think is that we need to do this all of the time, because it's one step forward, two steps back with Mr. Jake Paul. He wants to be a boxer, right, or he doesn't. Now, part of the comments about when he announced this fight, and I'm paraphrasing like crazy, but it's something like, from day one, I've always wanted to be a champion. What? So why did you fight Nate Diaz? And why did you fight Mike Tyson? And as we've spoken about before on this program, on this esteemed Bible of boxing, why don't you just fight people who can add to your boxing record? Now, I put it to you, Tipster, that on this occasion is what he's doing, and probably that is what boxing fans want, isn't it?
It is. It is what boxing fans want. And normally I would say you are 100% absolutely correct in this. However, we're talking about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape and let's dissect this a little bit, shall we? Because, their names are obviously different. Height exactly the same. Both of these dudes are 6'1". Chavez Jr. walks around at a cruiserweight, right? And that's even now at a cruiserweight, because prior to this, you got to remember his fights are 168, 175. He went from fighting Anderson Silva at 174 and a quarter to fighting Uriah Hall at 200. Within 3 years. Now, let's also consider 3 years. He had one fight in between there, and that was shortly after the Anderson Silva fight. So still 3 years. And what was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. doing during that time off, Steve?
Well, first of all, before we get into that, allow me to guffaw, because he's got around the weights, but Anderson Silva, right?
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. They've kind of taken the similar path. Chavez Jr. never got the grief that Jake Paul does, though, right? Jake Paul took all the heat for all of these MMA fighters, but Chavez Jr. fought Anderson Silva. He fought Uriah Hall. those two right there, relative and recent even.
Yes, but remember, and I would have been much more interested if he fought Uriah Heep, all of them, one after the other. That would have been great, just to give it a classic rock push. But I think he doesn't get that, because he doesn't get that people aren't on his back because of his work in legitimate boxing.
Sure.
Man had a belt, so not just to hold his trousers up. So that is one of the reasons why he doesn't get that. Has he, though, earned the right to become a semi-illegitimate boxer?
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. Chavez Jr. has fought Canelo Alvarez. Jake Paul has not. Chavez Jr. has 54 knockouts, you know what I mean, of his 54 wins. However, in the last, 5 years, 6 years, his record is like 8-6. Yeah. And he's only got 6 losses. So we're talking about a guy who is 39 years old now, right? Who has, we'll get into the outside curricular stuff in a moment, but who has had a career and is definitely on a downside of his career. What this does for Jake Paul is it puts a name that everybody associates as a boxer. It puts a name that everybody thinks, because holy shit, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. You mean he's the son of the great Julio Cesar Chavez, 89-0 Julio Cesar Chavez, the greatest fucking boxer of all time. This is who Jake Paul's finally going to fight? Well, not really, but kinda.
Yes, this is actually, we spoke a lot, didn't we, about, well, who can he come in with next? What can he do next? And he's not going to fight Tyson Fury. He's not going to fight Francis Ngannou. And he's not going to fight AJ. So the thing is, this is actually a really good move. But if Jake Paul had not stepped all over his own good work, just 1 minute, this is really good, because you've got the father there, so you can say, oh, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, senior, and not even think about junior, and say it's the same lineage, really. So you're really beating him. And he is a proper boxer. We're doing a lot of that. I'm getting a lot of work out for my fingers here. And so he's done that, but then he stepped on his own work, because in that same announcement article, well, I've read several, but one I read, I think if I remember rightly, he spoke about, I'm going to make your old man proud of you. Just paraphrasing. So, right, you can't. So what you're doing is you're looking past the junior to the senior, are you? We've all seen you do that now. You've stepped on your good work. You couldn't keep this zipped. Just say, we've done a great job here. This really legitimizes me as a boxer. Done.
Yeah, and be done with it. But once again, the thing that always gets Jake Paul in trouble is his mouth. 100% has always been his mouth. Here's the other thing. Like, the statement for him to make that about Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. clearly is a dig at what Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. has been doing for the last 3-4 years of his life up until last year, recently, right?
Do tell.
Well, it would appear that it kind of, I don't know if it started with, but the thing that really got him was he got busted. He got busted with a handgun. That compounded with drugs, rehab, probably trying to live up to his name, which is a huge other story in itself. I mean, come on, right? It's a different time. It's a different person. So Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. went through a completely different period in his boxing career than his dad did. But everybody, we've done it in this entire segment so far, and even Jake Paul has done it, the comparisons to the father. The father is the standard, and the son is just a nepo baby, right?
Yeah, it's the Eubank and Ben syndrome.
Yeah.
So, as you say, I wouldn't be surprised if their fathers did a run-in next week.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. So really, there are two points to this, aren't there? There's the business and the boxing. And boxing, there is the bullshit of boxing as well. But we're talking about the boxing of boxing is, well, actually, he'll give you a good run for your money, actually. He really will. And we might find that Jake Paul is, again, shown, as he was with Tommy Fury, whose skills are not really commensurate with, they're not up there, but he was outboxed in that. So we might find that he's outboxed again and might do his mea culpa. I'll really get back to boxing now and retrain. And then he might fight someone like, I don't know, the Pope. I say, I'll bring him in, I'll call him out. Because, I can't keep this boxing thing. That's the one side. The other side is that really, yes, he has to mention senior because that's what's going to get those clicks. So, I mean, what's in it for Junior is that it's a rehabilitation, isn't it? But it's a really odd situation because with the kind of Anderson Silva fight, for instance, you've got a semi-legitimate situation because BoxRec, it's on BoxRec.
Sure.
So that loss is on BoxRec. So it's a loss, folks. So it's a semi-legitimate situation, which really helps Jake Paul actually, because he said, "Well, actually, I'm now halfway up I don't have to pad my record and do what you said I should do, Stephen Tidster. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go halfway up and fight this bloke who's had some trouble, legitimizing him in the process because I'm a big influencer, and also I'll be legitimized in the boxing world." It's a good move for Jake Paul. This, I have to say it. It is a very good move. And my claim that influencer boxing, which I'm still sticking by, will be over by sort of January, February next year, is not looking as cast iron now. If people, I mean, KSI is another matter entirely, but if he can pick fighters in this respect and do those deals and know the fight game, and he must be being advised by some very savvy people, if he can do that, then he will probably, because people will want to say, okay, you're legitimate now. Well, he might, if he wins this, he might jump up the ranks.
Well, if you look at this is the first start because Jake Paul has his company, MVP. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. works for another promoter. That promoter, as much as we hate to say it, happens to be Golden Boy. Now, I mean, is that fitting? Is that fitting that a guy like Golden Boy would represent Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? Here, Steve. Now, we're also talking about, let's get it. Okay, let's call it like it is. And I in the past, Daniel Jacobs versus Chavez Jr., great fight. Loved watching it, right? But what I didn't like was it actually happened where he decided to say, I don't want to fight anymore on his own in the corner. That literally in front of his dad. So this is why Jake Paul is saying, I'm going to make your dad proud, because that is something that would have never happened. Senior would have never quit in a corner, never done anything like that. Junior did. But you have to ask yourself, what was the really underlying, like what was going on in Junior's life at the time? Well, we saw what turned into, right? So is it a good fight?
Well, you make a very good point that no mass thing, as we said last week, just it's a millstone around your neck, isn't it? And it's a good fight for Jake Paul, but in some ways, but in other ways, probably Golden Boy thought when the call came through, they went, we still got Chavez Jr. Is he still? Oh, right, better dust off that Rolodex. I think that's on a previous SIM card. Better put that in the phone and give him a ring.
Right.
So, it is a good fight for Jake Paul, but then are people saying, I mean, I'm saying and you're saying, oh, okay, I'll tell you what though, I had to go and look at that box record again. I had to. It wasn't in the forefront of my mind, and
Right.
maybe people will be saying, "Who?
Yeah.
Who's that?" Does it excite the boxing fans, which is what Jake Paul wants? Clearly, does it excite the regulators? Does it excite those alphabet organizations? Does it excite pundits like you and I? We are pundits now. They do call us pundits.
Mm.
I'm a pundit. That's what they say. They say other things that I don't quite listen to. But
Close. I've been called a punter. That's about it, though.
oh, yeah, fair well, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, it's a rap sheet as long as your arm. However, the pundits, he wants to delight the pundits, and I'm not sure this is those people who know will probably be saying, I see what you're doing here. Those people who want good influencer clicks and are saying, Mike Tyson, got to tune in for that, are probably saying, who?
Right.
So it might fall between the cracks, this.
Yeah. And I think that Chavez Jr. has a good enough left that he can stick that out there and avoid Jake Paul's big right hand, the one thing that he's got. So on paper, the boxing end of it, it should be a lot closer than it is, as long as Chavez Jr. shows up to fight and isn't just taking a payday out of this. Now, we saw what happened with Anderson Silva, and the difference of Anderson Silva's fight with each one of these guys. And I'm telling you straight up, I'll say it. I'll look right into the camera. Jake, if you got a problem, roll up. Anderson Silva could have whooped your ass and chose not to. There was a lot of boxing in that where possibly might have made you think that we could maybe sort of, I don't know, hypothetically, because you ain't getting me lacking, live in a world where Jake Paul and Anderson Silva had a gentleman's agreement, so to speak, which could possibly happen. That said, please don't whoop my ass, Mr. Silva, because I'm trying to do something bigger here. Well, listen, Anderson was never given that talk when he was fighting Chavez Jr. It was just like, you two guys go out there and beat the shit out of one another, please. I think that Jake Paul has done a very smart thing here. I think that between now and June 28th, when this takes place, I think that they're going to have to do a lot of marketing behind this to make people remember and realize who Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is. And you know as well as I do, Steve, all of that marketing, all of that publicity is going to come off of two things: his name, because of who his dad is, and the other thing is going to be, this is a guy that Canelo couldn't put away.
Yes, it is. The first of those is, everybody's got to play ball for that to happen. And, because you see that with the Eubank thing, don't you? They're desperate for Eubank Senior and for Nigel Benn to get involved. And Nigel Benn, silent. Chris Eubank is only, don't want this fight to happen, thank you. Close down. That's difficult. If you need everybody to play ball. Secondly, yes, all right. He fought Canelo Alvarez and actually had him on the ropes, but didn't throw anything, did he? It's almost as if he said, look at this, I've got you on the ropes. I can now have a discussion. Oh, you're smacking me to the face and body. I better be careful. You don't regard your own work in that way. Actually get to work if you've done something. They're going to have to load this card, Tidster. They're going to have to load it because I'm not sure you sell it on that. And really, Paul's got to come out. And he's not great at doing this, to be honest. He's not the kind of roll up merchant that even Eddie Hearn is. He's not. I thought he would be someone who would really be constantly on the lips, constantly on social media, constantly saying things, providing interesting events, doing a Tyson Fury, turning up in ridiculous costumes.
Sure.
And he just doesn't. He really disappoints me in this. He's kind of silent and thinking that it's going to sell itself. This will definitely not sell itself.
No, no, especially if you're coming off of the heels of your fight with Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? This is a, I hate to say the term a giant step down or a giant step back, but on paper, Mike Tyson is the pinnacle of names that you're going to be able to get in the ring. No doubt about it.
Yes, but then, we need to, we don't know yet, do we, what Jake Paul wants? And I suspect he doesn't know either. He wants to make a load of money. Mm-hmm. He's an influencer and wants to do all of that. And that's, everybody should have the chance to make the money they need to make in whatever way they want to do it, unless you're hurting other people. And that's fine. But you can't do that if you want to be a boxer and win titles.
Well,
you simply cannot. So, again, we are saying, we were here when he announced the Tyson fight. Mm-hmm. His next fight will be interesting. And I'm again saying his next fight will be interesting because he might want to fight somebody from the cultural and entertainment world. He might want to, or he might want to knuckle down, quite literally, and say, I'll fight another boxer. I have another boxer and then I'll work my way up. But you're not going to make the money if you do that. He's on a hiding to nothing, Jake Paul, and it's all of his own making.
And maybe that's why they've got this cruiserweight title on this same card that they've announced. They haven't announced anything else except for these two fights. Is this the fast track? Is this the fast track? MVP has figured out that they can get in bed with Golden Boy, and that can get their foot into the door to get Jake a title. Because if you have a good outing by Jake Paul in this, and whoever wins the fight between Dorticos and Ramirez, right? It's the WBA and the WBO. I mean, listen, it could have said IBF or IBO or IB showing up to work. It really doesn't matter. It's not the WBC, although, they've got their own hands full with a Grand Prix of proportions going on right now that has still got me baffled, as I don't know what they're doing there. I think everybody's trying to, all the governing bodies are trying to make sure that their belts are staying relevant. The WBO and the WBA could do really well by having, I hate to fucking say this, Steve. Oh my God. They could do really well by having a person like Jake Paul and his notoriety and his influence in social media be able to pick those names up in this day and age where we're going forward, and TKO boxing is going to become a thing. And we know that they're going to corner the market on every age demographic out there.
Are we saying that Jake Paul is thinking 5 steps ahead of most boxing fans and pundits? Are we saying that because you have just echoed what I said earlier, and quite rightly, I think, which is this is the step. So this is, I've legitimized. Now, first of all, you've got to do well against Chavez Jr., and he might not, because they are equally matched, pretty equally. No, you're right. Chavez Jr. could humble him if he turns up properly, but. So that is something that he needs to think about. It's a big step for Jake Paul. If he wins it and looks good doing it, because those two things are separate, if he does, then yes, absolutely. He could say, now I'm here. I'm not at the bottom anymore. I'm here. And even though I could step away and fight someone else that's a talk show host, actually, I'll come back to this because I am a title contender now. And you're right. Mm-hmm. Alphabet City in boxing really needs that. So he's made a massive move here. With one bound, he was free. It seems like that to me. He could be thinking in 3 dimensions here, Tidster. We might be giving him some kind of superpowers that he hasn't got, but he could be.
Well, if you think about this, we talked about this way back, right? About who would be inside of that cruiserweight realm, who would be his easiest path to getting a belt. And it turns out that we were all sitting there going, it ain't gonna be Topataya. It ain't that ain't the It's gonna get his head blasted off. We all said that his best bet would be against somebody like a Chris Billum-Smith. And we saw what happened with Chris Billum-Smith. He got beat by Gilberto Ramirez. So the fact that you have a 47-1 Ramirez taking on a 27 and something Dorticos for this title on this same card could work out just perfectly, because I'm telling you right now, Jake Paul, I'd love to see a Jake Paul fight for a title against one of these two guys, right?
It's a Cinderella story, isn't it? So, it's a
Wild.
modern day social media Cinderella story. And even if he fights Ramirez, let's say, and loses, he will still be he'll still be at that level. So he'll still be around, because he could say, I'm rededicating myself. I understand what I did wrong now. So I'm coming back and I will fight. But he won't have to go down here. He'll be here. So he'll still step over. Thinking about it, what a fantastic intelligence Jake Paul is, and we should all get behind him when he next runs for president.
All right, so Steve Swift has clearly gone off the fucking deep end, ladies and gentlemen. Statements like that are going to get you put into a home, Steve. I'm telling you straight up.
You get 3 squares and they cut your food up, and that is what I need.
I'm telling you, but the story is there. The story is there. Jake Paul beats Chavez Jr., goes on to fight. We'll just say that it's Ramirez. Ramirez's only loss is against Dimitri Bivol. Like, this is all, this puts Jake Paul's name into a conversation with real, legitimate boxers, and there's nothing any of us could have ever fucking done about it. It's wild. When everybody was sitting there going, hey, Jake, there's no way this is going to happen, Jake kept his nose to the grindstone. And so if you're asking me by reference of the title that we have put out there, will Jake Paul get some respect after this fight, win, lose, or draw? I think you have to. I hate to say it, but I think you have no choice but to give Jake Paul a little bit, not a lot. We ain't starting any fucking parades for this clown, but we're going to give him a little bit of respect now, right? He gets 2 drink tickets.
Yes, and I was about to get the invitations printed. Now you've rained on that sodding parade. So, or sodden parade. So, yes, he will get respect. And actually, I hate to say it, from me, but that's mainly because he's now separated the 2 sides of his boxing. So I think he can now say, thank you. Yes, I am wild. You're quite right. I'm feral, in fact. It's well known. And he separated the I'll fight this bloke who's on TV and I'll fight this legitimate boxer. He's done that by making this big move. I suspect you got to give him props for that, to use an old school phrase. I just spat that. Old school. You got to give him props for that. He's thinking in a different way. While I was taking the piss out of him and saying, you're just going to fight somebody who parks cars, he's been beavering away and he's got this done.
Yep. Well, you listen, but here's the thing that he'll never be. He'll never be a Charlie Z, ladies and gentlemen. This is the guy. Listen, Jake Paul versus Charlie Zelenoff. Come on, B. If Jake wins, he has earned the Charlie Z fight, and that is the truth. We're talking about a man who took it to Deontay Wilder, ladies and gentlemen. Charlie Zelenoff is the boxer's boxer. 30,000-0, I think, is his record. It is unbelievable. He beat Mike Tyson 7 times in one night, Charlie Z. He is such a phenomenal fighter. I mean, listen, clearly Jake Paul and everybody in the world is ducking Charlie Z right now, And Charlie Z, if I remember correctly, is probably ducking the law. And I don't mean this show.
Yeah. Nobody ducks this show. They all tune in. If he does, it's planned out for him. You've put it together beautifully. You could be part of Jake Paul's team. You might be a spy in the camp. Who knows? But But you've put it together beautifully. That step is exactly right. He's done this marvelously. Not that I'm looking forward to this fight particularly.
Yeah.
And I do think that Chavez Jr., if he turns up, and he should, after all the make your dad proud of you stuff, he should stick that hand in his face, in Paul's face, all night and make him a bloody mess.
Yes.
And and Jake Paul, hard to give us those witty aphorisms when you're spitting out teeth, son. It could be like that. But even if it does, he'll have gone out on his shield, Tidster. And that's really important as well. I don't think he can lose here. My God, what am I saying? I don't think he can lose.
It's wild. And he's confident enough. Think about this. He's confident enough that he didn't put himself on a fight with his showpiece. Right? The girls are on a different fight.
Yeah.
Amanda Serrano is not on this fight to save his ass on this. So he had to bring in guys who were fighting for a legitimate belt, guys who were fighting for a belt that he will be fighting for. This is chess. This motherfucker is playing 3D chess like he's with Captain Kirk, on the Starship Enterprise, and the rest of us are over here trying to figure out what Chinese checkers is.
Yeah, I believe this. I think that he either has a fantastic understanding of the business of boxing, because this is pure business of boxing, or he's being well advised by a group of people who know exactly, who have got a deep knowledge of who needs what and how that can move on and how that can position you, and they are advising him beautifully. This is a masterful move, and I never thought I would say that before this program started.
But here we are, Steve. Here we are in a matter of 37, less than 40 minutes. We've turned you around. Hell, we've turned ourselves around on this, right? And all we had to do was just kind of like map this out, talk it out, figure it out. And now here we are. We've done this. Unbelievable.
I'm so into it. I might start a Prime franchise from my back room. I might have to now. Even though no one wants Prime anymore, I still believe in it.
Well, by the time Prime is Prime, it'll be out of its prime. That's all I'm hearing. Right? All right, Steve. Listen, I know that you've got some things coming up. As always, it's a pleasure having you come talk boxing with me each and every week. Now you're off to listen to some Led Zeppelin, I hear.
Yes, I'm going to go to a new rock club in the next town along from me called Holy Diver. Shout out for Ronnie James Dio.
Shut up. Is it really called Holy Diver?
It's called Holy Diver. Yeah, it's
that's the name of the town?
Holy Diver.
Oh, the club is. Okay. Do they play a lot of Ronnie James Dio?
Oh, it's a heavy rock and metal club. It's a new club that I haven't been to yet, and I have to, particularly as Ronnie James Dio is the best metal singer, bar none. And let's have a discussion about that. Fight me, come at me. Hey. So, yeah.
You're not going to get a big argument from me on the Ronnie James Dio front, ladies and gentlemen, because listen, I love me all the way back to Rainbow. I love Ronnie James Dio, the man responsible for Rock Hands. I mean, how can you deny, anything about Ronnie James Dio, which didn't come from him, came from his grandma. Came from his grandma, little Hungarian woman or something like that, walking around cursing people, because I think that's what it's called. It's called the Maluk or something like that. Huh? Am I right, Steve? Yeah.
I think I'm not sure it's a curse. I think it's to protect you.
Okay. That's what curses do. They curse other people to protect yourself.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And apparently Dio ain't no Charlie Z.
Yes. He ain't. No, he ain't.
You know why? You know why? Charlie Z's still alive. Okay.
That's what. I mean, that's a case. Yes. So I'm going to watch a Led Zeppelin tribute act into Led Zeppelin this evening, and let's see how they are. As I said to you earlier, if they don't play anything from Coda, I'll be mightily pissed off.
Well, listen. It's nice. It's nice to know that you're going to go watch a bunch of middle-aged men cover a bunch of elderly men singing about the Lord of the Rings. All right. This is great. Will you be wearing your LARPing outfit when you go listen to this as well?
I might put on a fringe leather jacket.
Okay.
Who knows?
All
And
right.
wear a bandana. I could do. I won't, ladies and gentlemen. But I mean, a White Snake T-shirt might be on there. David Coverdale sent it to me personally. I
Really?
want to say, me and Dave were like that. That's
All
me.
right.
That's me on top. Look, hello, Dave. Nice.
All right. Good spoon.
Not really, but there you go. So I'll be wearing that, even though it doesn't fit anymore.
It always fits at least once. A half shirt is still half a shirt.
Very true. Very true. It's riding up and I'm riding out.
All right. All right. Steve, as always, they can go check you out, World Weary Guy 1 on his socials as well. On TikTok, he's going to be talking about all of this stuff, more boxing stuff. He's going to be talking about rock and roll, his adventures in the nightclub scene of jolly old England. And, you know, I'm going to be doing some stuff too as soon as I can get all of this other computer stuff figured out. I don't know. We might play some games. I might play. There's some wild ass games that I want to do on this channel. But yeah, we're going to figure this kind of stuff out. But now it's time to go watch some boxing, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your long weekend. If you had the Friday off, cool. If you have the Monday off, even better. A 4-day week is what we're all after. But until then, Steve, it's always a pleasure. And remember one thing. Tuck your chin.